Go to communication methods or methods of communication. So information can be sent or transmitted in a number of different ways. These are called the communication method. So ways in which information is being passed is called the method of communication. Yes. So we have the verbal methods of communication, which involve the sender of the message speaking to the receiver. So that's verbal. The sender speaks directly to the receiver. So written methods of communication include letters, notices, posters, but increasingly involve the use of information technology. So for written method, now we can talk about emails. Yeah, you understand. But before then, it's about writing letters, posters. These are what written methods are. Yes. Then we have the visual method of communication, which includes diagrams, charts, videos. Like the Zoom class is a visual. Yeah, it's a visual method of communication. Yes. So which is the best way to communicate a message? There is no simple answer to this question. Sometimes it is better to use verbal communication on no other occasions. And on other occasions, it is essential to use written communication. Different messages require different methods of communication. So there's no best method in all cases. So there's no best method. It depends on the situation. There's no best method. It depends on the situation. Yes. So we'll go down. We'll go down. Choosing the appropriate communication method. Now we have to, because based on our situation, we have to choose the best method. So there are several factors that the sender of a message should consider before choosing the most appropriate method to use to communicate with the receiver. So the method is based on you as the sender. Yes. So if you are transmitting a message, there are some factors that you have to put into consideration before you use a certain method or a chosen method. First, the speed. Is it important that the receiver gets information really quickly? For example, a manager from a foreign division of a company must be told about a cancelled meeting before he catches his flight. So the speed at which the message needs to be delivered is also one of the factors that you have to put into consideration. Yes. So for such message, you can't use email. It is better you make a call immediately. Yes. So that's the speed. The second one, the cost. Is it important to keep costs down, or is it more important to communicate effectively regardless of the cost? For example, customers need to be informed about a serious safety problem with a product. So the cost of communication is also important. So it's for you to decide. If you don't care about, if you have to care about the cost, or no matter what happens, you just want an effective communication, higher cost or lower cost. So you have to decide. So the third one, message details. How detailed is the message? If it contains technical plan, figures, and illustrations, then clearly written and visual forms of communication are likely to be essential. So details about the information. Yes. Does it involve detailed information which needs graphical expression or not? So if it needs graphical expression, you get to know. So if it needs graphical expression, you cannot say graphs from a phone. It needs a video, which is visual. Yeah. So now, the receiver, who are you passing this message across to? That's also important. Yes. So who are the target receivers? If just one person has to be communicated with, and they work in the next office, then one-to-one conversation is likely to be used. I need to pass the message to someone right in the next door. Yes. So I can just walk over and one-to-one communication. Do you understand? Yeah. Is there anything? Leadership style. I'll go back there. Thank you. Okay. So, however, this would be inappropriate if hundreds of workers need to receive a message. So you can't use a one-to-one conversation for 100 people that needs to receive a message. Maybe they have different messages that will receive. So for 100 people, it's difficult. Maybe you have to send email. Yes. Now go to the leadership style. So that is where you talk about autocratic, democratic. Okay. So for leadership style, is the leadership style a democratic one? If it is, then two-way verbal methods of communication with employees are much more likely to be used than they would be by an autocratic leader. Yeah. But an autocratic leader use the one way. So it's autocratic. Yes. Like you said earlier. Importance of a written record. So it's also, if it is important for you to have details written for future purpose or references, then you have to think about the kind of method you use. If whatever you discuss, if whatever information you have to pass must be recorded for future references, then it might not be on phone conversation.
Yes.
So if it's essential that a written record can be referred to at some time in the future, then clearly verbal communication would be inappropriate. For example, legal contracts or receipts of new orders from customers must have written records. So if it needs references to the future, you cannot call.
Maybe email.
Email. You cannot even use one-to-one conversation because I might deny that you didn't call me.
Even like a meeting, visual or something.
Yeah, visual, like Zoom.
Yeah,
it
Zoom.
is recorded.
Yeah, Zoom, yeah.
So importance of feedback. So if it is essential that the sender receives feedback, perhaps very quickly, then the direct verbal method of communication might be most appropriate. For example, as the customer just leaving the shop paid for those goods yet. So if the customer hasn't paid, it's better you just call the person one-to-one because it's just leaving the premises of the company. You can just call immediately. Go to him. You can't be sending email to that effect. Yeah. So that's about that. Then we go to verbal communication methods. For verbal, it said verbal or oral communication methods include one. So we are going to the types of verbal. We're going to talk about mouth to mouth, one-to-one talking. Yes. So verbal or oral communication methods include one, face-to-face or one-to-one talks, meetings between the sender and the receiver is verbal. Telephone conversation is verbal. Video conferencing, like using the Zoom, is verbal. Meeting and team briefings, which could involve few or many people, it's also verbal because it's about communicating with the mouth. What are the advantages of using verbal communication? One, information can be given out quickly. When this happens at big meetings, it is an efficient way of communicating with a large number of people. So for verbal communication, information is passed immediately. It's real life, real time.
Yes.
And you can easily understand. You can easily know if the message is understood or not. So message can be passed to large numbers of people at the same time. That's verbal communication. Two, there's opportunity for immediate feedback and two-way communication. So because you're passing message to a group of people, you could get immediate feedback from them.
Yes.
And it is two-way communication, which is an advantage.
Yeah.
The third point, the message is often reinforced by seeking the speaker. The body language of the speaker, how they stand, and their facial expression can help to put the message across effectively. This, of course, does not apply to telephone conversations. Yeah. Just like teaching, the way you pull your body, how you demonstrate, can easily make students to understand what you are teaching. Yes. So if you are passing message across, the body language can also help.
Yeah.
So with verbal, you can use your body language.
Yes.
So what are the problems of verbal communication? What are the disadvantages of verbal communication? In a big meeting, there is no way of telling whether everybody is listening or has understood the message. So the first problem about verbal communication is that the information is passed. But how can you deduce that everybody understood or they are all listening to you? That was the first problem. Two, it can take longer to use verbal methods when feedback occurs than to use a written form of communication. It can take longer to use verbal methods when feedback occurs than to use a written form of communication. For verbal, getting feedback might be too difficult because it might take time. But if it is written, you could get a response through written. Three, when an accurate and permanent record of the message is needed, such a warning to a worker, a verbal method is inappropriate. When you need to make records of what you have passed across, you cannot use verbal because nobody is recording it. So it becomes difficult. Yes. So go to written communication methods, including those based on information tech on IT. So written methods of communication include the following one: business letters used for either internal or external communication. They should follow a set structure. We have the memorandum. So written messages used only internally. That's memorandum. Then many businesses use computers to send this through the internal email system. An example of a memo sent by email is shown. So this is a memo. It's an email sent to certain individuals or to customers. Yes. Or suppliers. So these are email. Then we have reports. Reports is a detailed document about a particular issue or problem. These are often produced by experts working in the business. They can be sent to managers to read before a meeting is to discuss the issue. Very often, these reports are so detailed that they could not be understood by all employees. So when it comes to reports, these are given by experts to give details about an event. So this one you might not understand how it's been written
Maybe
because they might have different terminologies to write it.
like a job when they make a report or something. I don't know.
Anybody could make reports.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is that report means you are given a feedback
Mhm.
regarding an event, or you are saying your take. You are giving your own. You're giving. You are narrating
Yeah.
an event that you witness. That is a report.
Yes.
Clear?
Yeah.
Notices pinned on boards. You have notice board in your school, right?
Yes.
So you can pin information there. That's written.
Notice on board. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are used to display information which is open to everyone. However, there's no certainty that they are read. So the problem about notice board is some people will just pass by without even checking.
Mhm.
Text messages. Today, mobile cell phones are a major part of mobile people's lives. They also they allow for quick and convenient communication with others. One of the most used functions of the mobile phone is not voice calls, but instant SMS messaging, such as when organizing a business meeting at short notice. Just take out your phone, type in a quick meet me at 2, please, and press send. Text messages, SMS is an easy and discreet way of communicating with others. Text messages allows the sender to communicate with others in situations where a face-to-face or phone conversation is not possible or appropriate. Also, a record exists of the communication until this is deleted. However, there's no way of accessing the tone of the message or the mood of the sender, and this can cause some failures in communication. For text message, it is quick.
Yes.
It is appropriate when you want to pass information that you don't want every other person to see. So you can just pick up your phone, send a message, and it's done. But the problem about using, and another advantage about text message is that it has a record, except if it is being deleted.
Yeah.
That's the problem about it. That's the only problem there. Then what are the problems about using text messages? One,
Yes.
you might not be able to understand the mood of that individual sending the message because it's not physical. You're not seeing the individual.
Yeah.
So that's a problem about that. And that could easily lead to information failure.
Yeah. Then
we have emails. For email, social networking sites, tweeting, and other forms of electronic communication using information technology. These have revolutionized communications in recent years. Written messages can be sent between 2 or more people with computing facilities. Printouts of messages can be obtained if a hard copy is required. Intranets provide easy messaging to all workers in a business with access to a computer. The internet allows easy and effective communication with customers and suppliers. So, for email, social networking sites, tweeting, and other forms, it is good because records can be kept. It is effective because you can engage large numbers of people. So that's about intranet. But the problem about intranet, and also you can also print it out.
Yeah.
If it needs hard copy. So we go to the advantages of written communication. One, there's hard evidence of the message which can be referred to in the future. This should help to reduce disagreement between sender and receiver about the content of the message. So one of the advantages about written communication is that you can get the hard copy printed if reference needs to be made in the future. Two, it is essential for certain messages involving complicated details, which might be misunderstood if, for example, a telephone call was made. Also, the law in many countries requires certain safety messages to be written and displayed in offices and factories. It is not sufficient to tell people about safety measures. They could be forgotten. So written messages or written form of communication does not allow you to forget things because when you go through it, you always see it there. Or like when you just tell somebody to stop doing something and he or she can quickly forget.
Yes.
The third one, a written message can be copied and sent to many people. This could be more efficient than telephoning all of these people to give them the same message verbally. So you can copy and paste to a lot of people that you want, so you can share.
Yes.
Electronic communication is a quick and cheap way to reach a large number of people. Yes, just forward it to as much as you want to forward it. But you can't make a call. It's difficult for verbal. Then what are the problems about using written communication? One, direct feedback is not always possible unless electronic communication is used. This can, however, lead to many emails, messages being created and information overload. meaning people are unable to pick out the really important messages from the many that might be received. With written message in other forms, two-way communication is difficult. Like what I told you, I received an email and I didn't even check it because I receive a lot of emails.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. You might not keep track of those written messages,
Yes.
and that's a problem. So it is not so easy to check that the message has been received and acted upon as with verbal messages. Although this can be done with email, as a please acknowledge functions can be set up. So another problem about written communication is that you might not be able to get feedback. If you might not be able to even it might be delivered, but not received, but not seen, not checked, not acted upon. You wouldn't know. Unlike verbal, where you're going to say, are you going to do it? Yes, right now, I'm on it. Please call me as soon as you're done. You get a tangible feedback. But written communication, it might not be possible.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yes.
Except if you are sending an email that they need to reply with done.
Done.
Like, replying the message that as soon as, please acknowledge receiving this message. So that means you acknowledge that you've seen the message and you have done what you are supposed to do.
Yeah.
The language use can be difficult for some receivers to understand. If the written message is too long, it may be confusing and lose the interest of the reader.
Yes.
So if written messages are long, then the reader might just boycott it and forget about it.
Yes.
Or might not even understand it. There's no opportunity for body language to be used to reinforce the message. So another problem about written communication is that you might not be able to use body language to ensure that the message is understood, like detailed.
Yes.
For audience to understand. So that's another problem. So we go to visual communication methods. Visual methods of communication include the following.
Yes.
Okay. So for visual method of communication, it includes one, films, videos, and Microsoft PowerPoint displays, which are often used by businesses to help train new staff or to inform salespeople about new products. So that's visual.
Yeah.
Film, watching of film is communication also.
Yes.
Videos, yeah. So posters. Posters can be used to explain a simple but important message by means of a picture or cartoon. For example, the dangers of operating an unguarded machine, or the waste of energy from leaving lights switched on. So you can use a poster to explain that. Charts and diagrams can be used in reports or letters to show numerical data or to simplify complicated ideas, such as how business is organized. Examples of this appears in other chapters of the book. Computers and relevant IT packages can be used to present data in a wide variety of different tablets, charts, graphs, and diagrams. Printouts of these can be obtained as a hard copy to add to reports or other documents. So you can also use charts and diagrams to convey information, to convey methods, or to convey information. And if you have to display facts in numbers, in figures, you can use data.
Yeah.
Photographs and cartoons, they're also forms of communication. So it only had color and humor to whatever you are doing. That's about photographs. Then what are the advantages of using visual communication? Number one, these methods can present information in an appealing and attractive way. People are often more prepared to look at films or posters than to read letters or notices because of the interesting way they communicate messages. It is always, the information is they can be used to make a written message clearer by adding a chart or diagram to illustrate the point being made. So with visual communication, even what is being written, you can illustrate further. Just like when you want to talk about demand, by drawing a graph to expatiate further, to analyze your information. So go to the problems about visual communication. One, there is no feedback and the sender of the message may need use other forms of communication to check that the message has been understood. For example, training videos are often followed by a written test for the new staff to check their understanding. So you might not get a feedback, except if you have to test them to understand, or test them of their understanding. Two, charts and graphs are difficult for some people to interpret. The overall message might be misunderstood if the receiver is unsure how to read values from your graph or how to interpret a technical diagram. So another problem is that if you are using the graph to someone who doesn't know, understand or knows how to, for someone who doesn't know how to interpret graph, then it might be giving, it might be it might be misunderstanding the information.
Yeah.
So that's the point there.
Yeah.
So, okay, that ends methods of communication.
Yeah.